So Art was very kind. He said he handpicked all the presenters because they were going to say interesting things. I get to talk because I'm one of the presenting sponsors. So in all truth, here we go. I got to tell you a little bit about myself before the 40 seconds are up my slide starts. I wasn't a transportation expert. I was in the Army for 20 years. I saw firsthand in Iraq what happens when our energy security policy goes wrong. When we become too dependent on oil, when we become too dependent upon our cars, when we design a system that is built only for one mode, and that pissed me off so bad that I stumbled backwards into entrepreneurship. And what came out of it was this. It was Ride Scout. You see, you can go to the next slide. What I saw was what we all see. I was living in Arlington, Virginia, just trying to go to and from work each day. I was stuck in this. I was paying the cost directly and indirectly of what we, all of us in this room, directly and indirectly set up. But the problem is, who's really paying for what's going on right now? We're not evenly distributing the true payment systems, and I'll talk about the end. Now look, I started with the statistics. I saw all these numbers, and in 2011 they were even more ridiculous. It made me mad. But what I realized was that these numbers speak to a bigger thing, which is Wall Street, which is the pocketbook, which is people who crunch numbers, figure out how we can more evenly balance that. And if we can figure out a way to make the incentives correct, it's a win-win-win. Because we're leaving out some obvious statistics. 36,000 people every year. That's 9/11s of people die every year on our roads, and we're not pissed off enough yet. And I think we need to be. 36,000 people every year because the way we've designed the infrastructure. But look, we've been trying to solve this in the private sector a long time ago. 1914 in Los Angeles, with the streetcars costing a nickel, an entrepreneur in his car said, hey, long line of people, hop in my Model T. I'll take you the same route for a nickel, same price. You know who shut him down? Do you know who said that wouldn't work? It was the streetcar lobbyists. The streetcar lobbyists lobbied all their local governments across the US and said that these jitneys are illegal. They're not safe. They're not licensed. But the problem was that the regulators in the private industry, they got in bed in the wrong way. And that's what happened to the streetcars after a while. They got undone by the same forces. And then look what followed them. We became this culture so dependent on the car, we designed all of our systems from the beginning to end. Gabe Klein has a great quote in his latest book. If you walk to work and spend $1, a penny was provided by the private sector. If you drive to work for $1, the public sector spent $9. And this is sometimes what we get. We get incentives aligned incorrectly because the public sector and the private sector aren't speaking correctly. They're trying to represent people that they don't quite understand, and they're doing it in ways that are so inefficient that we're not using our tax dollars wisely because we're not aligning the people who are paying. And here's a great example. This is in Texas. That's a rice farm in Texas. I thought rice was supposed to be grown in swamps. But they're growing in Texas because we've been doing it for 150 years in Texas, and so we provide government subsidies to protect old ways of doing business. Right or wrong, I'm not talking about right or wrong, I'm just talking about we're doing it. But there is a way. Technology is going to help. We used to do things a lot of different ways. Things like smartphones came together and brought it all together. When you can holistically see the solution, when you can holistically see the price, you do things differently. We now take more pictures in a single day through smartphones than Kodak processed in an entire year. When it came to food, when we finally took different ways of serving food and brought it all together, and then the Piggly Wiggly, in the same year as the Jitney, let you self-serve and pull food off the table, you had food as a platform. You could pull what you wanted and pay as you needed, and we bundled it in your own little cute little basket. Then we got to have solutions. But look at that, we are still waiting on the bus like we did 100 years ago. We've got to figure out ways, and luckily there's all kinds of great technologies, there's all kinds of new innovations, but there are pockets of innovation. And some of us are still just left in the rain. It's not coming soon enough, but there are places where we're using free market systems, market-based solutions to incentivize new ways of doing it. We can't just let it all go to the wealthy. We've got to figure out a way to figure out how we redistribute these funds in the smartest way possible. We're figuring it out, but the biggest wallet that's out there might be from the private sector. But if we're still using stuff like this, who would go to Amazon and buy anything if it looked like that? You can't. Now, I'm not knocking the city. That was the best we had then, but those are still there today. Let's figure out ways to redo all of this, simplify it, make it as easy to buy an airline ticket. This is what we're doing right now with internet, phone, and cable. We're bundling. We're creating mobility as a service. We're letting you choose packages. You can pay for your own packages. Sometimes your employer pays for your packages. Imagine employer-provided mobility as a service. Imagine if we brought it all together, because the employers are bearing that cost. Because see, this is your typical life. This is just a day in the life of Ride Scout. You're just going from work to school to the bar to the fun. You're going all around your life. You're in multiple modes. You don't care as long as it's safe, reliable, legal, and quick. That's what you want. And if it's the right price, it's even better. So rather than take the niches that are out there, let's bring all these solutions together. There's a shout out for trying that in Portland with all that you've been doing in innovation. There's a shout out for Lyft and what they're trying to do to really try to be a part of the first mile solution. Bike share and car share, it's all coming together, but we've got to align the incentives correctly. And how do you do that? The way you do that, I believe, and that's not just because I'm Ride Scout, but we've got to figure out the way to reduce the barrier to entry. We've got to take memberships and lower them. We've got to take access and make it instant. It's things like Globe Sherpa, another Portland-based idea, so good we bought the company this summer. But honestly, we've got to make it so that we can get access. And employers have a great incentive. We use healthcare benefits right now to take care of our people, to reward good behavior by trying to attract great talent. We retain them with great packages. Hell, we even call it the Cadillac plan in healthcare. And yet we're not doing it in mobility, but we should be. Because if not, the employers are going to pay and then we pay. The employer paid for that accident, whether he or she counts it on the bottom line. The employer counts it every time a person is late. The employer counts it when a person has to leave early because they don't have a good, quick way to get back home, and the employer pays for it in taxes. In taxes, we're not distributing the money. And that's who's paying for it in the end. Our kids today. Because our system is not good enough. They're going to get where they need to go to move upward in life, but we owe it better than for them to wear out their tennis shoes walking because we as a society didn't do better. Thank you very much.